I'm good. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Living life just like I should. And I wouldn't change it if I could. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Living life just like I should. Wouldn't change it if I could. Trying to figure out who I am, or who I'm supposed to be. Feel good about where I stand, so I can make the most of me. Coming back down from space, a million miles away. There's a lot of love in this place, and I'm just trying to say I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Living life just like I should. Wouldn't change it if I could. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Living life just like I should. Wouldn't change it if I could. Been a long time living this way, worrying about what people say. Feeling like I don't fit in, but I won't give up, I won't give in. Been looking for something more. Well, what you really looking for? Been with you since you were born, since you were born. You're good, you're good, you're good, you're good. Living life just like I should. Wouldn't change it if I could. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Living life just like I should. Wouldn't change it if I could. You only live once. I'm good with myself. I'm there for my friends until the very end. You only live once. I'm good with myself. I'm there for my friends until the very end. 'Cause I wanna see another love revolution. Find a way to be a better person. If we come together like we should, then we could all be good. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Living life just like I should. Wouldn't change it if I could. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Living life just like I should. Wouldn't change it if I could. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good.
Good morning. It is nice to have you here and your animal friends too. For those of you who haven't been here to Unity Spiritual Center of San Francisco before, today is our Blessing of the Animals. So it's the one time where we allow animals of all kinds. They're invited to be in the sanctuary today, and then we bless them in the garden right out this way after the service. And if you did not bring your pet or a picture of your pet, I have blessed smartphones before, so feel free to join me in the garden. I'd be happy to bless your animal. It's very nice to have that sweet dog with us. And it's a good day because we have swung wide the doors to the presence of God, knowing that Spirit is in this place and in all places and all people. And just as the sun has awakened us to a new day, the Spirit of God within awakens us to divine glory. And this glory within and around us is everywhere we look and in every situation we encounter. With our hearts centered in Spirit, we can quiet our thoughts and meditate on the wonder of all of God's creation and our oneness with it. So I invite you to take a deep breath, become comfortable, and gently release any cares of the day. Because your sole purpose at this moment is to experience the divine. And you begin to do so now as you relax into this sacred time and space at Unity Spiritual Center. Seeing through eyes of oneness acknowledging our oneness, we at Unity Spiritual Center celebrate and honor people of every culture, of every creed, of every religion, of every race, of every age, and every lifestyle, knowing that there are many paths to God, many faces of God, many names for God, but only one God. And that God is expressing through all people in unique, special, and individual ways. As you look at the flame of this candle that we light every Sunday, remember that you too have a divine flame within, that you are an expression of God, an individualized expression of God, and that you do God's work in this world. We honor the one presence and power of God with Unity's foundation statement, which you'll find on the screen behind me, and I invite you to join with me in saying it aloud together. There is only one presence and one power, active as the universe and as my life, God the good, omnipotent. We give thanks for our spiritual community and for the beauty of our spiritual center. We give thanks that Unity Spiritual Center is a welcoming, warm, and inclusive community dedicated to studying and putting into practice empowering principles and tools for happiness, health, prosperity, and successful living. We give thanks that with our spiritual teachings, we can create extraordinary lives in a peaceful planet through our relationship with the loving God presence within each one of us and through our relationships with one another. Our vision and the opportunity for each one of us here is that you discover the power within you to create the life of your dreams, that you have peace of mind and deep happiness, that you enjoy joyous and loving relationships with yourself, with spirit, and with others, that you spend your days doing what you love and feel called to do, and most of all, that you know that your life matters, that you make a difference, and that the world is a better place because you're here. If you're visiting us for the first time, and I know a couple of you are, it looks like you received the gifts that we like to give. If you did not receive a chalet, did you? Okay, great. So John is on it, and we welcome you. It's a chalet we've been passing out for many, many years that has a tag on it that says, just as God has a design for every shell in the sea, God also has a design for your life. So we are delighted that you're with us today. We pray that you'll feel nourished by your time here today. And please do plan on joining us next door for our hospitality hour following the service, where we'd love to get a chance to know you a little bit better. And if you or any of you, whether this is your first time or you've been coming for 1,001 times, just know that I always welcome conversations, and my contact information is printed on every printed piece that we put out. So would be happy to create an appointment with you to discuss anything that's on your heart or mind. So at this time, as we move into the meditative portion of our service and prepare to sing together, I'll ask that you turn off your cell phones if you haven't done that already, or any other electronic devices. And I will turn it over to our music director, Michael Hatfield.
And a good morning, one and all. And a special good morning to John. We're glad to see you here in one piece. So last week, Maggie mentioned this tune, and it has been a minute since we've sung this tune. And so, Andrew, if you want to put those lyrics up on the screen for Our Thoughts, Our Prayers, we'll start this. The melody sounds like this. I'll give it a little play for all of you that are uninitiated to this one. Go. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, the tools that we create with. Our thoughts are prayers that Spirit resonates with. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of mindfulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. So you can close your eyes and just think about that. And I'll have Andrew rewind to our first verse. We'll do it in a minute. Here's our first verse again. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer.
And now, as we continue to get comfortable in our seats, relaxing even more deeply into this time of worship, prayer, and meditation, let us open our hearts now to receive the message of today's daily word. The word for the day is guidance. Is there anyone who would like to read the daily word? Brian. The daily word will be read by Brian Lance.
Morning, everybody. Okay, guidance. I am one with the loving guidance of a divine mind. Spirit expresses through all of creation as loving guidance, maintaining perfect order in all things. Today I focus and take time to gain direction in all that I do. Since my essence is of spirit, I am one with divine mind always. And I remember that truth whenever I feel confused, conflicted, or uncertain of what my next step should be. My mortal mind is limited, relying on yesterday's fears to make today's decisions. I choose to move beyond any perceived limitations to the loving guidance available through the presence of divine mind within. This day unfolds before me, filled with satisfaction and joy as I feel that loving guidance with every step I take, every choice I make. I am one with the loving guidance of divine mind. Then from Psalms 119:05, your word is a lamp to my feet and the light to my path.
Unity Spiritual Center is a center of prayer and healing. We have a communal prayer box that's placed on the back table, along with green prayer request forms. And you are always invited to fill one of those prayer requests out and place it in the box. We'd like to just keep those prayers in our hearts. They are from members of our community, so not knowing who's written one, not knowing what the situations may be that have been written about, let's just take a moment to hold all those prayer requests in the box in our hearts. Just sending love and energy to those people in our community who have reached out for prayer. And let us know that regardless of what circumstances may be happening in those people's lives, we affirm and know that divine love and divine order is everywhere present. The prayer requests that are placed in the box are prayed on by me and our USC prayer team for 30 days, and then we forward them to Silent Unity at Unity's World Headquarters, where they're prayed on for an additional 30 days. And as I mentioned, we have prayer request forms printed on green paper that are in the back next to the prayer box on the back table. But we have a time in our service where we like to make our prayers audible. This is your time now to offer your prayer needs to your spiritual family here so that we can support you and stand with you. So after we sing the introduction to our prayer song with Michael, who will lead us through it, you're then invited to speak your prayer request aloud, and we will answer each one by singing "Your Prayer is My Prayer Too."
We are connected by the heart. Where do you end? Where do I start? Whatever you feel, I feel too. You're a part of me, I'm a part of you. Your prayer is my prayer too. 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 And your prayer is my prayer too. And I pray for my daughter to find employment. Your prayer is my prayer too. Your prayer is my prayer too.
We also have a time in our service where we like to invite you to share your thanksgivings, your blessings, things that you're grateful for. This is your time to share that with your spiritual family too. Wonderful.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
We give thanks for this opportunity to bless and to be blessed in spirit. We give thanks for the feelings of connection, of peace and warmth that fill our hearts and minds right now. We give thanks for the privilege, and it is a privilege, of praying for others in our community, in our nation, and around the world. And we affirm that always and in all ways, divine love and divine order is everywhere present. At Unity Spiritual Center, your prayer is our prayer too. And so it is.
I just can't sleep tonight, knowing that things ain't right. It's in the papers, it's on the TV, everywhere that I go. Children are crying, soldiers are dying, some people don't have a home. But I know there's sunshine behind that rain, I know there's good times behind the pain. Hey, can you tell me how to make a change? I close my eyes and I can see a better day. I close my eyes and I pray. I close my eyes, I can see a better day. Close my eyes and pray. I lose my appetite, knowing kids starve tonight. Am I a sinner? 'Cause half my dinner is still left on my plate. I got a vision to make a difference, and it's starting today. 'Cause I know there's sunshine behind the rain, I know there's good times behind the pain. Hey, heaven, can you tell me how I make a change? I close my eyes, I can see a better day. Close my eyes and I pray. I close my eyes, I can see a better day. I close my eyes and I pray for the broken hearted, and I pray for the life not started. Pray for all the ones not breathing. I pray for all the souls that I needed. I pray. Can you give them one today? I just can't sleep tonight. Can someone tell me how to make a change? I close my eyes, I can see a better day. I close my eyes and I pray. I close my eyes, I can see a better day. Close my eyes and pray.
Thank you, Michael. That's actually one of my favorite songs. I shouldn't tell you that it was originally written and recorded by Justin Bieber. we won't hold that against the song, will we? All right. So let's see. There we go. So we work with a theme every month. And in October, we've been looking at prayer. The theme that we've been using for the year is our mission statement. We have specific words in our mission statement that we've been focusing on to just kind of see where we're measuring up. And the word for October was prayer. So last week, if you were here, you know that I did something called Prayer 101. And I sort of talked about, there's a general overview of what prayer is. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time talking about what prayer can be, so I'm going to do that today, looking at different ways to pray. And I should mention that this week I was asked to do a webinar. There's an online resource called Practical Church Resources. They're based on the East Coast. And they asked me to do a webinar this year that was, not this year, but, well, yes, this year, but also this week, on my last book, Crafting Gratitude, which specifically talked about creative ways of praying. And I thought that for those of you who may not quite understand what that's all about, I just wanted to share different ways that you can pray that happen to be creative in nature. So this is where we're going today, creative expression as a form of prayer meditation. And to get there, I need to switch the slide. And I just want to share two of my really favorite quotes with you. One is by Madeleine L'Engle, who some of you may be familiar with. She wrote A Wrinkle in Time. She also wrote one of my favorite books called Walking on Water, Reflections on Faith in Art. So if this particular subject interests you, I highly recommend her book. And she said, God is constantly creating in us, through us, with us. And to co-create with God is our human calling. And then Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, I know a lot of you are familiar with that book, said, we speak of the creator, but we seldom see that word as another word for artist. And yet clearly a great artist made the world. We in turn are creations of the creator and are meant to continue its creativity by being creative ourselves. It might be said that the act of making art is actually a form of prayer. And I totally believe that. So I have spent a good number of years of my professional career actually researching different prayer practices that are creative, doing them myself, teaching them, and writing about them. But to kind of let you know how I got here, I want to take you back in time. I was introduced to Unity back in the early 80s, so I was familiar with affirmative prayer, but I also was attending Episcopal churches in my lifetime. I've attended Presbyterian churches, a lot Christian Science churches, lots of different churches in my spiritual journey. So I always had, just by default, a more traditional view of what prayer is, and I perhaps like many of you, thought of it as something that we do, usually with bowed head, and that it's a form of talking to God. Is that a familiar definition for a lot of people of what prayer is? And where this started to break open for me, my first book called Prayers for Healing came out in 1997, and that was a combination of traditional prayers, but it also included poems, prose poems, things that just really seem to be coming from the heart and soul as related to, an expression of what it means to be alive and with questions and sort of beseeching a higher power. So that's when prayer started becoming something different for me. And then with this book, which was my second book, The Way We Pray, it came out in 2001. And the way we pray was formatted, it was 50 different prayer practices from around the world. So I had the opportunity to research and write about 50 different prayer practices. And that's what really expanded my definition of prayer, because among the 50 were these, and all of them have creative components. Altars, making a beautiful altar. Amulets, which are things that we probably wear and we don't even think of them necessarily as prayer, but it's something that's very special to you that may remind you of a spiritual concept. I have them all over my hands and fingers. Ceremonial costumes. We don't really do that too much in Unity, but when you've seen beautiful ceremonial robes, vestments, of course, in the Catholic Church and in other religious traditions. Chants. Despachos. Anybody know what a despacho is? A despacho comes from Peru, and they're fabulous. They're like visual prayers using actual ingredients. So what the Peruvian shamans do is they make little packets up of like seeds or sugar or coffee grounds. And each of those little packets has a symbolic spiritual remembrance. So for instance, if you open up a little packet of sugar, that's to remind you to stay attuned to the sweetness of life. So it's a really beautiful symbolic prayer practice. Feasts, of course. God boxes. That would be, we kind of have a God box in a way on our back table, but that's when you put prayers in a particular box that you've made for that. Gratitude and prayer journals, haiku. A lot of you may not know that haiku is actually or has been used as a prayer practice. Icons, the painting of icons. In many ways, the art that you see around you, in fact, Shiloh Sophia, who is the artist of all of these works, she trained in icon painting. She herself actually comes from an Orthodox religious tradition, and she took a class on painting icons. And so many of these are icons. And the idea was that you both paint the icon in a place of prayer, and that when you look at an icon, you can pray, that it takes you to a different place. Ikebana, which a lot of us here know about, being in San Francisco and near Japantown. It's the Japanese art of floral arranging, and that has been used as a spiritual practice. Instrumental music, of course, thanks to our wonderful music director. We know the powers of music to take us to a spiritual place. Mandalas as well. And there's more. Personal sacred text. This is something I'll probably bring to us next year, and it's a really wonderful thing to do. It's basically creating your own sacred scriptures. So a journal that you would make that would have art or prayers or poems, things that really stir your heart. It's your own personal sacred scriptures, and I'll probably do a workshop on making one of those. Prayer beads. How many of you are Catholic or raised Catholic and are familiar with prayer beads? But there's a way of using prayer beads that's personal. And I wasn't raised Catholic, but I have used prayer beads for many different uses, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Prayer bowls, prayer dancing. We probably were doing some prayer dancing last week during our concert, right? Prayer flags. Prayer rugs. We all know about the prayer rugs used in Islam, where they place a very beautiful sacred rug and pray 5 times a day to the God of their understanding. Rituals, storytelling, tea ceremony. Again, the Japanese tea ceremony is a form of prayer meditation. The Techno-Cosmic Mass. I brought Matthew Fox here a couple years ago. Matthew Fox was a Catholic priest, is now an Episcopalian priest, and he has written many books on creativity as a sacred act. And he started these way back, probably 20 years ago, 25. They started in England and then were brought over here, and it's basically using the idea of the Catholic Mass as a rave. And so they are so awesome. He used to do them in Oakland. I attended one that he was doing in Oakland, and they have altars in the 4 directions, and he takes you through the 4 impulses of the heart, the via negativa, which is sorrow, via positiva, which is rejoicing, and right now I can't remember the other 2 vias, but if you ever have a chance to attend a techno-cosmic mass, they're now called cosmic masses, I highly recommend doing that. Treasure maps. Everybody here should know what a treasure map is, because we do this workshop every year, and it's a way of collaging images of what it is that you'd like to see made manifest in your life and putting them before you, and then of course visual arts like the paintings around you are showing. So writing about these, I was like so excited, and it was so interesting to think these can be a form of prayer. So why can they be used as a form of prayer? Because the definition that I'm using for prayer is that it's a way to commune with the God of our understanding. You know, so often we hear the definition that prayer is talking to God. Well, prayer certainly can be talking to God, but it doesn't have to be talking to God. And I was really pleased, as I mentioned last week, when I found a definition that Charles Fillmore used on prayer as being conscious contact with God, being communion with God. So it's a way of getting yourself into the presence of God. And I find creative expression a very powerful way of doing that. So after my little journey here in 2001, I then co-wrote a book on making personal prayer beads with a woman in Alameda named Eleanor Wiley. And this has become a favorite practice of mine, and if you're interested, maybe I'll do a prayer bead workshop here. But I've made prayer beads for all kinds of things. The one on the left is a little hard to see, but that was something I did on my 40th birthday. I asked, which was 20 years ago, I asked 20 women in circle, and I asked them all to bring a bead. And so this is what was made, and all of the beads had special significance, which is why personal prayer bead making can be so powerful, because the very beads that you include can have spiritual significance. And then the one on the right was one I did for motherhood that I did to celebrate my daughter Chloe, and I don't think you can see, can I? Oh, I can do that, cool. You can see that the end bead on that strand is a bead with my daughter's name on it. Then I did crafting calm. So I'd been doing all these books and they'd been research oriented. I'd been writing in the third person. Then I wrote a book that came out in 2013 where I used the first person for the first time, because what this book was about was my experience, my personal experience working with a lot of these prayer practices that I had written about in the third person in the way we pray. So Crafting Calm came out, and as you can see, I divided it into different sections about how one can craft or use creative expression for calm, clarity, comfort, contemplation, creation, community, having a better sense of community, connection with others, and then, of course, connection with spirit. So just a few of the ones that I covered in that book were prayer flags, which I think we've done here before. I know that I did that one day of prayer, and I think the Children's Church has also made prayer flags. Comes from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, which you can see that picture was actually taken in Tibet. And what they do, they're meant to be hung outside, and as the wind blows the flags, the idea is that the blessings, because there are sacred prayers written on the flags, the blessings are bestowed far and wide with the wind. So that's actually a really lovely prayer form. Portable shrines, something that we may find ourselves doing. And this is just to keep objects of your devotion with you. So if you look at the one on the left, that's actually an antique French portable shrine that was made, obviously, with a depiction of Jesus. The one in the right, and I should explain that the ones on the right that are ink drawings were illustrations for my book, Crafting Calm. but they can be anything. And again, it's probably a workshop that I'll offer where you could take something as simple as an Altoid tin. You know, we have all those empty Altoid tins wondering what to do with them. Well, they make really wonderful portable shrines, and you can put anything in it, anything that, you know, reminds you of your higher power and the God of your understanding. Finger labyrinths. I think all of you are familiar with the incredible ornate one that was discovered at Chartres Cathedral by one of our local priests, Lauren Artras, who is an Episcopal priest and did work out of Grace Cathedral. I'm not sure if she's still connected with them anymore. She's also a psychoanalyst, which is kind of interesting. But she discovered this ancient pattern on the floor of Chartres Cathedral, and she really brought this idea of the labyrinth and its possibilities as a prayer form back to the United States. So what's depicted here is an actual wood one that belongs to me. I have that one with grooves where you can actually trace the pattern with your finger, which is said to kind of reorient your brain. And then a simple yarn one that you can make. I'm almost positive Sylvia has done this with the kids, where you can print out a pattern and then glue yarn, tracing that, and then you've got that texture to follow with your finger. And then I did one, and this is a picture of me back when I was blonde and had short hair. But this vision board I still have. It's very important to me. I did this vision board back in 1994. So how long is that? 24 years ago, when I was living in Indianapolis, and I wanted more than anything to move to San Francisco. So I made this vision board, having learned about them in a Unity church. And as you can see, I don't know, can you see? There's a, yeah, perfect. So you can see all the different things that I put on it. What's so amazing is that I was hired for a job 2,000 miles away. So from Indianapolis, I was hired for a job here in the Bay Area that required me to commute over the Golden Gate Bridge, which I think is quite amazing. So that is very special to me. And let's see, I just went backward. Hi, little one. Then I followed up Crafting Calm with Crafting Gratitude, and this was the book that they had asked me to do a webinar on. And so it was the same general idea as Crafting Calm, but this one was specifically ways of showing gratitude. So as a, gratitude as a spiritual practice. And again, the sections in this were family, friends, and significant others, health, wealth and prosperity, home, vocations and avocations, nature and animals, opportunities and possibilities, and the divine. So that's what this particular book was composed of. And in the introduction, I just talked about how, we live in this busy world, this crazy busy world, and we're always assaulted by technology. And it can be hard to stay grateful in that kind of environment. So what I wrote in the book, and the introduction to the book, is I need reminders to stay grateful. One of the reasons I use jewelry as reminders. I need to remember on a daily basis the incredible, overflowing, abundant richness of my life. So this book is for both of us. And pretty much everything I do, I focus on things that help us to remember either spiritual concepts or things like gratitude. So these are the illustrations that are within Crafting Gratitude, Cornucopia of Plenty. Thanksgiving is coming up. So we're all familiar with the cornucopia and putting the nuts and the fruit and the gourds in it. But I suggest, what about having a cornucopia of gratitude for the things in your life that you're truly grateful for? And they could include pictures of your family, or, a talent you might have. There's paintbrushes in there, or, whatever it is that you feel truly grateful for, that's something that you can place and just remember those blessings as you walk by it. It doesn't have to just be at Thanksgiving. This is a medicine bag. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that before or are familiar with the practice, comes from the Native American tradition. In a sense, it's a way of using a bag as a traveling altar. So the idea, again, similar to a portable shrine, is that you fill it with things that you're truly grateful for, that you want to remember, and you place that within the medicine bag. And so the one on the left is one that I actually made. It's a simple pattern that we could even do here. Pet memory beads. So this is kind of appropriate on our Blessing of the Animals days, because those of us who have pets know how much they become a part of our family, and how we can have real abiding relationships with them. And so this was actually a prayer strand that I made to celebrate my first cat named Luna. And she was a long-haired calico cat. So you can see that I picked beads that were the color of her fur. As I said, her name was Luna, and so I have a tiger eye moon to represent her name. I still have these beads. They still remind me of my sweet cat. And then it was fun that the illustrator decided to put her name in the illustration. So Luna lives on in the book as well. Let's see where we are here. This is a really wonderful practice that comes out of the Mexican, Central American, and South American traditions. They're called milagros, which in Spanish means miracles. And what they are, they're base metal, although you can buy them sometimes in sterling silver. And they usually depict some either body part or an aspect of life. Like, I think there may be animals up there. Sometimes you'll see houses or cars. And they work two ways, which is really interesting. One way is as a prayer request. So if you have a particular prayer, like say the eyes, maybe you're having trouble with your eyes, the little eye milagro could be used as a prayer for healing for your eyes. They're also used in gratitude for answered prayers. So a lot of times you'll see the bases of crosses that you might find in a more traditional church covered with these milagros, and that's an acknowledgement of a prayer that was answered. So the story I tell in the book is that I had a friend who was going into the hospital for surgery on her leg, and she was worried about it, and so I made her a milagro prayer strand that had a leg on the end of it for her just to hold on to and use as a tangible way of both praying for herself and also knowing that she was being prayed for when she was in the hospital. So those are just a few examples. And in the end, I said that gratitude practices help us to become more mindful of all the beauty that surrounds us and of the awesome privilege of life itself. Pablo Casals, the wonderful cellist, once said, "In music, in a flower, in a leaf, in an act of kindness, I see what people call God in all those things." So the way I ended the book is, may we too be grateful for the music, the flowers and leaves, the kindnesses in our lives. May we see the holy in all these things and in everything. So we don't have time for too many questions, but I just wanted to see if any of you had any questions that maybe I could take at this point. And if not, you know where to find me, right? I'm here. I'm always happy to talk about this because it really is such a deep passion for me. So I have a book coming out in December. It's called Crafting Love. So didn't know it at the time, but Crafting Calm turned out to be the first of a trilogy. So yeah, Crafting Calm came out in 2013. Crafting Gratitude came out last year. And this year, Crafting Love will come out in December. So that's kind of exciting. And as you know, I've been doing art exhibits, art exhibits here and art workshops up in our new art attic. And so if this interests you, if you're kind of excited about it, just know I'm going to be putting more on the calendar in 2019, and we will specifically be looking at creative expression as a form of prayer and meditation. And so it is. Thank you, God. So for our guided meditation, and John, if you can just turn down the lights a little bit. Some of you know that I've been doing a teacher training, a year-long painting teacher training in Shiloh's method, so I'll be bringing that back to the church. And I am like right in the home stretch getting all these assignments done. One of my assignments was to write a prayer, and it was called a source prayer, a prayer to our source. So I wanted to share that with you. This is my source prayer, and I invite you just to lean back and close your eyes, and if any of these lines that I'm about to read have a resonance for you, I invite you to just embrace them as if they're your very own. Oh, creative spirit, divine flame within, creator of color and light, may I be a vessel for your holy energy, that I might see the symbols, the sacred design of my own soul's path. May I open to your call and trust what I hear, that your wisdom might pour forth through my creations. May I set any doubt aside and turn to you always as the source of my light. May I make of myself a portrait of beauty, colored by love and appreciation for living. May I make of my life an exquisite altar, transformed by each season and dedicated with joy to gratitude and grace. May you be the passionate painter, and may I be the many-layered canvas, ever and eternally willing to be touched by the ultimate artist's hand. And so it is. Thank you, God. So knowing that you can return to your beautiful inner sanctuary, you can return to your source prayer at any time. Begin now to come back to this outer sanctuary, moving your fingers or your feet. And when you're ready, coming back to waking consciousness and opening your eyes. Unity offers positive, practical, progressive spiritual teachings and tools that honor the universal truth in all religions and respects each individual's right to choose a spiritual path. And here at Unity Spiritual Center, we have an exciting vision, inspiring mission, and compelling values by which we strive to live. And I invite you to join with me in saying them aloud together. Our vision is, centered in God, we co-create a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. Our mission is, we are a creative, joy-filled spiritual community dedicated to healing, inspiring, and transforming the lives of all people through prayer, education, and love. And our values are, we are spirit-led, generous with resources, inclusive, joyously creative, and guided by integrity. And in this space, feeling inspired by our vision, mission, and values, feeling enriched by what we've experienced here today and what we're about to experience through our hospitality hour, our blessing of the animals, and our Reiki share. Let us take time now to be a channel for enrichment through our generous tithes and love offerings. Practicing the principle of tithing ourselves as a spiritual community, we are pleased to tithe 10% of the offering collected today to Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute and to Raphael House. So let's take a moment now to bless our tithes and love offerings, holding them in our hands or next to our hearts as we say our offertory prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
My job's not easy, but it's work I love to do, and I will always make it through. For God is with me and will lift me if I fall. There is an answer when I call. So if you see me speaking softly, conversation has begun. I'm only praying the words I'm saying. I'm only praying to the one. As I arise and a new day has begun, I take a breath and draw it in. I pause a moment and I'm thankful for this day. I feel blessed and then I pray. So if you see me speaking softly, a conversation has begun. I'm only praying the words I'm saying. I'm only praying to the one. I give thanks for the love that's in my heart. Every minute that I live, I'll sing the praises and I will do my part. I offer all I have to give. It's getting dark outside and I have gone to bed. It feels so good to rest my head. I close my eyes like a child whose day is done. Make my connection to the one. So if you see me speaking softly, a conversation has begun. praying. The words I'm saying, I'm only praying to the one. So if you see me speaking softly, a conversation has begun. I'm only praying. The words I'm saying, I'm only praying to the one.
That was nice, Michael. Is that original? Not a Justin Bieber, huh? That was beautiful. Thank you. Please join with me in blessing the offering.
We give thanks for the many blessings that are in our church this very moment. We open ourselves to the infinite possibilities that are ours to choose. We are filled with a mighty faith that empowers and frees us to live our divine purpose and serve our community with excellence. And so it is. Amen.
I want to thank our brand new ushers today. Ruben Diaz and Josephine Tan, thank you so much for signing up to be ushers. I also, let's see, I'm going to move to the handheld mic, Andrew. I've got a bunch of announcements to make. First of all, I want to thank everyone who supported our fall concert last week. In addition to selling $950 worth of tickets, raising $133 from the bake sale, and being able to give $100, 10% of what we made to Ken Coleman's scholarship fund, we had a total blast. It was so much fun. So I want to thank Michael Hatfield, our music man extraordinaire, for putting that together. It was awesome. And also Mary Ellen Jurek, who did another fabulous job of pulling together our bake sale. Just many, many thanks to both of you for making it such a wonderful and successful time. Today we have two special offerings, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. We have our Reiki share that's going to be here in the sanctuary about 12:30. This is something you can just start thinking about. It's always going to be on the third Sunday of the month, except in November, because on the third Sunday in November, we're going to have our Thanksgiving potluck. So the November Reiki share is going to be on November 4th. The October Reiki share is here today. And many thanks to all the people who are giving that as a service on a love offering basis only, and that's Cheryl Hodgins, Mary Ellen Jurek, and Kathy Russell. We really appreciate your bringing that to us. And then I'm going to be out in the sanctuary for our annual Blessing of the Animals. I see we have an animal. That's excellent. I can't wait to bless your dog. If you didn't bring a picture, sometimes people bring framed pictures. Just know, as I said, I'm happy to bless smartphones with your animal snapshots on it. So do join me in the garden until 1:15 for that. We are going to do something fun as we move into November, which is the month that we focus on education. We're going to celebrate Dia de los Muertos. So Sylvia Grady, whose heritage is Mexican, is going to help us celebrate this beautiful Mexican holiday. It's also celebrated in some Central and South American countries. But we're going to be setting up a beautiful altar in the church, and so you're invited to bring in pictures of your ancestors who have passed, and that could be a pet photo, of course. Any ancestor that you want to honor, any candies that they may have enjoyed. We'll be having, candles and other decorative items on it, but they're so beautiful, and we're going to do that on November 4th. we're also going to have a potluck that day. So that's going to be really fun because it's not going to be Mexican food only. Everybody is going to be invited to bring something that is a recipe either from one of your ancestors or that one of your ancestors loved. So we'll have truly an international potluck on November 4th, and it should be a lot of fun. I also am doing our last membership class on November 4th in the afternoon. So if you've been coming for a while and or even if you haven't been coming for a while, if you just feel called to become an official member of our church, we would love to have you as a member, and that last class of 2018 will be on the afternoon of November 4th. There's a brochure in the front foyer which you can grab and fill out. We also have launched our fall fund drive. As you know, we've got our little trusty thermometer, and it hasn't moved in the last week. So just remember, we're still collecting funds. We're going to be doing that through the end of the year. And one of the cool things about it, one of the things we hope to do is, remember the labyrinth that I showed you? We're hoping to build a labyrinth in our outdoor garden area, which would both serve the purpose of making that flagstone path a little more user-friendly, but also having a place where we can go into prayer meditation, walking our own labyrinth. So that's one of the things we're hoping to raise money for. As I've said before, no donation is too small and no donation is too big. So please do prayerfully consider donating to that. If you do, put the word prosperity in your check on the memo line of your check, or if you donate online, there's a space where you can just indicate that it's for the Prosperity Fund Drive. So with that, we will bring in our kids.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. We bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the presence of God in you, empowering you to do great things. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family surrounds us. The love of God holds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever I am, God is. And all is well. Thank you, God. Most excellent.